This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, so I wanted to make this video because I feel like that in people's rush to make a very, very early determination on D.T.R. or any player based on the performance of last week, some fine details and some context is getting ignored to a level to where I feel like it should be addressed, or at least brought up, so that these things can hopefully enter the larger conversation. And one of the big talking points that I think I'm going to address is criticism of either D.T.R. or Kevin Stefanski on how the game was played versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So on one hand, you have people who want to prop up D.T.R., who are fans of D.T.R. and want everybody to believe that D.T.R. is going to be great, and no shame with that. And believing in a young rookie quarterback, it's not something to be ashamed of. I'm not saying you should be ashamed of him. People are using him to prop up an argument about why they don't think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach, because the game plan limited D.T.R. It didn't allow him to go downfield. It didn't allow him to show everything that he's worth and all that. And they feel like Kevin was the reason why the offense was slow on Sunday. Now, again, there's context. The Steelers play defense. That's also a thing. And it's not like the Steelers have a nothing defense. There's Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, some of the most experienced defensive players in the NFL and defensive coaches in the NFL are over there. So they are definitely a factor in how the game gets played as well. It's not just up to D.T.R. and Kevin. They're not playing against air. But that is one argument that I think is wrong. Another argument that I've seen out there that I think is wrong is that Kevin was limited by D.T.R. because he has a limited skill set and D.T.R. is not good, and we need to put Joe Flacco in immediately because he's limiting Kevin Stefanski into this game plan. And I think that's wrong too, because both of these camps are arguing takes that just, it's not the truth. Like, it's not D.T.R. versus the coaching staff. It's the D.T.R. and the coaching staff coming together to try to help each other to put together a winning game plan, which they did in Pittsburgh. And I think the big piece of context that people are missing is, one, that they work for the same team. They're trying to help each other. Two, they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's not an easy task. Three, the game plan was how it was because that was the best way to operate versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. It had nothing to do with what they thought D.T.R. could or could not do. It had nothing to do with what Kevin did or did not want to do. It's simply how they wanted to attack the Pittsburgh Steelers when they have two backup tackles playing in the bulk of their snaps. That's simply it. And this is why I like to make the point that the season, an NFL season, is much like a season of TV, of a TV show, right? There's episodes, pieces to a larger narrative that you have to wait till the end of the season to really put together and have the full context around. One game isn't going to give you that many answers because that game is just a result of what they felt like they needed to do in that one situation. You'll get a better answer on what a quarterback is or isn't by watching him play multiple games, because you can see what game plans can he execute, what game plans can you not execute with him. And I think what we found out versus the Pittsburgh Steelers is that this is a game plan that the rookie can execute, and that's a good thing. I think this is a similar game plan that they rolled out in 2022 in Jacoby Brissett's first game. I think this is a very similar game plan that they tried to roll out in 2021 with Baker Mayfield in week 17 when they had James Hudson in against TJ Watt. And this was James Hudson's rookie year. Now, why do I think that, right? Because a lot of people remember that 2021 game as a game where they left Baker out the dry, left them out to dry and all of that. But I don't think that that's necessarily true. I think Baker ended up creating a lot of his problems in that game. And that doesn't mean that that's a statement on who Baker is for the rest of his career, but it is a statement on who he was in that game. He made his own problems, and I think he was worse off for it. So if we go back to this game, we look at the chart, you'll see when the pocket was kept clean, the time to throw was 2.36. And when he wasn't blitzed, the pocket time was 2.6. Now, these are relatively fast times to throw for Baker Mayfield, who was well into 3 high 2s territory with this time to throw. This indicates to me that the game plan was get rid of the ball quickly. If you look at his chart up here, it looks eerily similar to what D.T.R's chart's going to look like. A lot of stuff here, a ton of stuff here, not much up here, right? That's what the chart looks like. But you notice when he was under pressure, that time to throw all of a sudden spikes to 3.46. When he was blitzed, that time to pressure spikes to 3.94. Now, this isn't a conversation about Baker Mayfield. This is more of a conversation about game plan. Just to me indicates that once the pressure happened, Baker Mayfield was unable to execute the game plan, which was to get rid of the ball quickly. The reason I bring that up, again, is not to bash Baker Mayfield, but is to talk about D.T.R. Because if you look at D.T.R., he was able to execute the game plan, right? When he was under pressure, he had to move around a little bit. He still kept the pocket time to 3 seconds, which is pretty good. When he was kept clean, 1.97 seconds, which is great when it comes to time to throw. He was down when he was blitzed. He was really good at recognizing that he was getting blitzed and getting rid of the ball. Actually was at his best in this game when he was blitzed. He had 15 dropbacks when he was blitzed, completed 12 of those passes for 67 yards, 4.5 yards per attempt. So he did a really, really good job in this game for a rookie of being able to get rid of that ball quickly and recognize a blitz. You see his passer rating was 85.3 in those situations. So that's a really good sign. It shows me that this is a guy who, when he can recognize pressure, and when he gets that pressure, can get rid of the ball quickly. Another thing that I love that I saw out of him was his pressure to sack number at 12.5. Again, didn't take that many sacks, didn't create much opportunities for sacks, and had 5 of his first downs when blitzed. And I think that that's a really, really good job by D.T.R. Again, getting rid of the ball quickly, being able to execute the game plan. Now, that's one thing about it, right? They were able to execute the game plan. That was the game plan coming into it. I think it's fairly obvious that that was the game plan coming into it. Now, some of this stuff, I think that he was kind of getting flustered and he was erring on the side of not making a mistake, which is, again, a good thing in the context of this game. I get that we want badly, since we traded for Deshaun Watson, and honestly, we go all the way back to 2018 when you drafted Baker Mayfield. We want badly for Pat Mahomes to show up in the Cleveland Browns uniform. And what I mean by that is we have been waiting so long for a quarterback that we have this secret hope in our head whenever we see a quarterback for the Browns play, that quarterback is suddenly going to turn into Pat Mahomes or some version of that and be able to play lights out like that. But that's not the reality. Even Pat Mahomes has to play the game plan. Everybody has to play the game plan. Now, here is something that I do think is really worth noting. Again, we mentioned that he was pretty good and at his best, according to Pro Football Focus, when he was under pressure. Again, 8 dropbacks, 6 attempts, 3 completions, 25 yards, not mind-blowing number with the 61 Pro Football Focus grade, had a 66 Pro Football Focus grade when blitzed. So again, not the greatest numbers in the world there, but still some promising stuff. I think that's really good from D.T.R. But you look at these, you go, okay, what's going on with the pockets kept clean and when he's not blitzed? And you look here and what rears its head? A 22% drop percentage. And not blitzed, it's 33. On average, he had a 20% drop percentage in this game, which I believe is the season high. We can go back to last week. The drop percentage was at 9.1, right, with Deshaun Watson. We go back to the first game with PJ Walker, I believe it was week 6, and the drop percentage was at 5.3. So D.T.R. got dealt a bad hand. He dealt with a lot of drops, but I think he did a lot with the hand that he was dealt. And this is why it's important to not just bring up stats or things that bugged you without the context of why that those things happen. Now, I'm not here trying to tell you that D.T.R. played a great game and that we should all shut up because he had a good drive at the end of it, and we should not be critical and never be critical of this team. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is we have to ask ourselves, instead of pointing something out, well, let me rewind a little bit. What I am saying is that if you see something that you don't like or it bothers you, instead of immediately pointing it out and being like, well, this sucks and this is why this team sucks, because you notice a thing that might bother you, ask yourself, why is that happening? And then when you investigate that, some pretty good answers might come out, right? If you don't like how that they threw how many of their passes within 10 yards? Let's go back to the chart. If you don't like that they threw 80%, 83% of their passes. Well, no, 84, my bad. About 84% of their passes either within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. I can understand why that would suck. But you have to ask yourself the question, why did they do that? The reason they did that was because they knew that they were going to get a lot of pressure and be blitzed because they had 2 backup tackles in the game. When you have backup tackles in the game, you're going to want to focus on time to throw, and you're going to want a quarterback to get rid of the ball quickly. That was the game plan. Don't turn it over. Get rid of the ball quickly. Do what you can. And for the most part, D.T.R. executed that game plan, right? Under 2 seconds here. Under 2 seconds here. Under 2.3 seconds here. He's at 3 seconds here, but when you're pressured, that's when you're going to have the longest time to throw because you're trying to evade a sack. And even that, it's not a bad number at all. He had his best passer ratings of the game when he was under pressure and blitz. He executed the game plan. It's a good thing. That's why that it looked like that. Now, is it pretty? Is it the prettiest way to win? Absolutely not. Is that how they're going to play for the rest of the season? Absolutely not. Now, let's look at another example. Jacoby Brissett's first game with the Cleveland Browns. If you'll notice here, didn't take that many shots downfield, right? Kind of a similar chart. A little bit more here on the outside left, a little bit more here on the outside right, but still the bulk of this stuff is this spot here in the middle of the field, those slant routes, and then a lot here and a lot here, right? Like that's still the bulk of it. And you look at Jacoby, I mean, like the numbers aren't, well, the grades certainly aren't more impressive than what D.T.R. had. He had a 10% drop percentage. D.T.R. dealt with the 20% drop percentage. And you look at the time to throw, Jacoby was able to execute when the pocket was kept clean. Under pressure, you see that it's 4 seconds for Jacoby. So you see how good that 3-second number is for D.T.R. And you just start to get a grip of like, okay, you know, Jacoby Brissett gets rid of the ball quickly. These are his numbers when he's pressured, blitz, not blitz. And these are the time to throws. So if Jacoby's not able to do that fast, then it makes it kind of impressive what D.T.R. was able to do with the accuracy and the efficiency that he was able to do it at on some level. So that's what I'm saying, right? The yards per attempt, 4.3 yards per game for him. Now, D.T.R., I believe it had to be like 3.8, right? So another game where the yards per attempt were very low. Both of these games, yards per attempt, very low. We go to week 2, it changes, right? World of difference, right? Look at this chart. Look at this chart. I'm gonna show you guys again. Week 1 right here. This is week 1. Look at the stuff here, right? Kept clean, 45 PFF grade. Under pressure, 52 PFF grade. Not blitz, 39.7 PFF grade. When blitz, 61.4 PFF grade. The time to throws, we already saw him. Like, take a good look at this. All right. We're going to go to week 2. Just 1 week later. The drop percentage goes down to 4.3. Guys get used to catching his football, and now all of a sudden the kept clean 75%. This is against the Jets, who are a better defense than the Panthers were that year. Under pressure, 84.5. He had an 85 grade when blitz, when not blitz, and then a 61.5 grade when blitz. And the yards per attempt went up from 4 to 8.5. It doubled. When Kevin puts a quarterback in there for the first time, especially a quarterback that he's running his system with, right? Not the modified version of it with Deshaun Watson that he had PJ Walker run while Deshaun Watson was out. When he's running that bread and butter Stefanski style offense, he's going to come out and start very slow with somebody. Just give you small building blocks to build on. He wants to see if you can execute the game plan and just get out of there without turning the football over and so just doing enough to win. As the weeks go on, you look to add and build on top of that, right? So if you look at week 1 of Jacoby Brissett, what were the things that you felt like you can add and build on top of? You didn't do much play action, right? You didn't show much play action at all. You got 1 yard on play action attempts. I bet people were very concerned about that. You had some success out of empty. You had some success throwing screens. You had some success here and there. And he didn't take that many sacks. Week 2, you empty the bag on the play action. You do 9 dropbacks, 8 attempts, 8 completions, 88 yards on play action. So you're going to open up the playbook more progressively as the season goes on, or as you give him more and more games. And that's what happened with Jacoby Brissett. You look here at D.T.R, and we're back to D.T.R. What are the things that you feel like you can build off of? Felt like he threw some really good screen passes. Not the toughest thing in the world, but I thought he did a good job there. I think you'll have more success versus a team that's a little bit more aggressive like Denver. The play action stuff felt like he did really good with, right? I think he sells a really nice play action ball, had his highest yards per attempt in this game with the play action ball. Got 4 of those. Pittsburgh, not really a team you can play action a ton of. But I think that D.T.R has a good future doing those play action ball stuff. And you can do a little bit out of empty with the young fella as well. He's not going to be a deep ball thrower. We can go back to him at college. Like, let's go look at him in college, right? Go back to him in college. And let's go like week 14. Him in college, or week 12. It's making me go through all of these, and this is not good TV. But you go back to him in college, Power 5, UCLA. All right. Go back to him in college, passing pressure, depth. There it is. And when you look up his game versus USC, and you see he threw the ball deep more often, but he wasn't the most accurate deep ball thrower in the world, right? It's 8 attempts, 2 completions against USC. You go back to week 11 with him, like 7 attempts, 2 completions. He averaged out to like 35% at USC on the deep ball. So he's not going to be the biggest deep ball thrower in the world. That's never been his game. But what he is going to be is somebody who could work that intermediate to short area of the field with a lot of quickness and accuracy. And I think there's something to be said for that, right? Also, D.T.R is a plus athlete. I don't know if you guys have had the pleasure of looking up some of D.T.R's highlights in college. And I don't usually recommend watching highlights, but for this purpose, I think it's fine because we're not talking about evaluating his passing game solely off of what he did in college, right? We're talking about his just raw athletic ability. And I think highlights will give you a good sign of like how much raw athletic ability somebody has or athletic potential somebody has. Go look at his highlights and see what he does when he runs that football. He's a dynamic athlete, and you can do a lot with somebody who could be a threat with the read option, running the football, be a threat, scrambling the football, and be a threat in that short to intermediate part of the field. So I think people are overreacting, thinking that how the Browns played versus Pittsburgh is what the game plan is going to be for the next 8 weeks. The same way it wasn't the same game plan for Jacoby Brissett every week that you ran against the Carolina Panthers is the same way that this game plan that you had versus Pittsburgh probably not going to be the game plan that you have every week, right? You're not going to be throwing your backup right tackle at TJ Watt every week. I think in weeks where you don't do that, you might run more play action. You might let him hold on to the ball a little bit more. You're not going to ask him to get rid of the ball in less than 2.5 seconds. And I think that his ability to execute that game plan, and I think that win blitz stuff is pretty impressive in my eyes. And I think that there's a lot to get out of him there. So I do think a lot of people are kind of projecting a lot off of a little bit of information. And I think it's important that we know how little information one game alone can give you, right? Just based off of the Jacoby Brissett example of, oh man, the offense looked like it was going to be this, and he was averaging 4.2 yards per carry, and he was terrible in play action. And then the next week, he's awesome in play action, and he throws the ball 8 yards attempt. One game is one game, and that was the game plan to win. And if you look at the circumstances of the game, it made sense that it was played like that. So that's why I wanted to draw attention to. I saw multiple people kind of inbox me these questions, DM me these questions, or tweet me these questions in this vein. And I think that it's worth giving it an answer in depth. And that's why I kind of wanted to come out here and make this video. But that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.